Welcome to Franchise Killer, podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Or right. I feel like that's been our go-to for all of these.
It's gotta be because when you have something that rhymes with fight, you just do it.
You just do it, and you just want to do that Mortal Kombat announcer voice. But when you're about to do it, you're like, "There's no way this is gonna sound good," but you go for it anyway.
I feel like if we're gonna go through the names today, we should do it like the announcer in the song.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yep. David. Irina.
Let's just go right into it. I'm Reese. Across from me we have
David.
To his left,
Irina.
to my right,
Sub-Zero.
also known as
Noah.
Also known as, you should have been
Bihan.
Or Noob Saibot. The second one.
Yeah, that's true. And unlocking his arcana by watching the wrong movie for the 100 and something time we have
AJ.
What movie would that be?
I know. Big Hero 6.
Is it?
That's all it reminded me of.
I was trying to do the Legend of Zelda opening a chest. Kind of thing.
I hear it now.
And the movie we're talking about is Mortal Kombat 2021. I do believe this is the latest or newest movie we've ever covered. So for once, we're on the verge of being relevant in some sort of way, I guess.
Topical, baby.
And
I do declare.
Dune was.
That's true. Well, we covered the old Dune, but yeah, it was in a response to the new Dune coming out.
The last couple of movies we've been kind of on a similar wavelength, but this one I think is going to be a little more combative.
Ooh, combative. I don't know. I
With
think
a K.
you may be disappointed. I think we may kind of fall in line on this one. I don't know. We'll see. The movie is directed by Simon McQuoid, and that's not McQuaid. This guy's Australian.
I'm Simon
I was
McCoy.
gonna say that sounds Australian.
Yeah.
McCoy.
And it stars Louis Tan, Jessica McNamee, Josh Lawson, Tadanobu Asano, Mikad Brooks, Ludi Lin, Chin Han, Joe Taslim, and Hiroyuki Sanada. And it's written by Greg Russo and Dave Callahan. And it's based on the Mortal Kombat video game franchise. That said, just like the Tomb Raider movies, I feel like the original two Tomb Raiders were kind of modeled after the original Tomb Raider games with the polygonal boobed character, action hero, and the new one was based more off the more modern Tomb Raider games where it's more of a story of survival and, getting a bow and arrow and making your way through the jungle and killing off people and finding a tomb.
Less triangles, more curves.
Yeah, whereas this one seems to be more modeled after the later Mortal Kombat games where they're more narrative-based, less of the actual just setups of fights that don't make sense. It's actually trying a little bit to try and string a plot through it. Whereas I think when we watched that first Mortal Kombat, it was like, what is really the plot here is so, I don't know.
Thin,
and people just run into each other and fight. But I'm not saying this movie's successful in that approach. I just think it's interesting that this one decided to map itself after the more modern Mortal Kombat games.
Yeah.
And I guess that does make sense. But yeah, for those that are new to this show, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, Noah, had you seen Mortal Kombat 2021 before this episode?
I had never seen this one, and I was actually excited going into, not like terribly excited.
Well, if you had been, you would have seen it in theaters.
Yeah. But I was excited after watching the previous two because this seemed like kind of a new take on a old and gold franchise. So,
David, how about you?
That.
I had not seen this, although if you remember correctly, I had plans to see this with you. But then you had other plans.
True.
And then you ended up seeing it and I didn't.
Brutality.
Brutality, yeah. Not quite fatality, we're still together.
Yeah, we were supposed to have like an interesting movie night where we watched Mortal Kombat, the new one, with the new Godzilla versus Kong.
Dude, that's a good combo.
Hey, we watched the new Batman, though, together.
We did. That was a moment.
Yeah, it was. So you've been holding that against me.
I will never stop holding it against you. I really wanted to see this movie with you.
The masterpiece of Mortal Kombat that... Yeah, I just happened to...
All right, to make it up, you can watch Master of Disguise with me.
Gross. Irina, how about you?
I had not seen this at all, so this was my first time watching it. I had wanted to see it when I heard it was coming out because I was excited. This was definitely something that I was hoping there would be a movie to do the story justice, so...
Mm-hmm. So 3 fresh watches so far. Mm-hmm. AJ, how about you?
Yeah, I guess I'll be the combo breaker here. I think really the iconic aspect of this is the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. So that just is always what draws you in, really. And there are some recycled animations from their other stuff, but I don't know. Yeah, I never saw the ending too, really, because I was just kind of too afraid, really.
Right.
Yeah, recycled animations. Too afraid to see the ending.
But yeah, I mean, you got a story about this, orphan who's goes around running shirtless, fights, has this encounter with a reptile, and then has this fiery showdown with Shere Khan. So,
Jungle Book.
Thank you. I was really trying to figure it out.
So I hate to break it to you, but we, as I already announced, we did watch Mortal Kombat for this episode. But
and it's Shao Kahn.
But hey, maybe you'll have some fun anecdotes for this episode that we can call back to you on. How about Mortal Kombat though? Had you seen this 2021 version?
I had not. No.
Wow, so 4 across the board. A lot of people had not seen this one. I'm surprised. Mm-hmm. For me, this was, and now I just feel guilty, but it was one of my first theatrical experiences during COVID when theaters were starting to reopen. I did see this in the movie theater. And if it makes you feel any better, once I walked out of this movie, I was like, I could have waited. I'm not saying it, but weirdly, I think my opinion on it has changed since then. I think I've seen it 4 times now. And
the first one.
This one.
No,
yeah.
I know. You're the first one that can claim that.
They can probably claim that. But there's some... So to give you insight into the way I watch movies, it's weird. No one else does this. But when there's a movie that has a lot of good elements but is a flawed piece of work, I'm weirdly intrigued to keep going back in and watching it again to try and just... like it more, I guess, and I would have to say I like it more now. I'm not trying to reveal
you're a masochist.
Yes,
he kind of is, honestly.
I like it more.
But with that said, David, do you want to give us our quick call to action there?
Oh, I'll keep it quick. Welcome to Franchise Kill, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Franchise Kill?
I said killer, didn't I?
Yeah, he said killer.
I said killer. It sounded like Franchise Kill.
What's the Franchise Kill?
A little more aggressive.
You got to do it like Kano.
Welcome to Franchise Killer. Oh man,
I'm just your Peter Jackson.
It's going to be Peter Jackson, but with a lot of really bad
British
insults.
character and any Australian character.
Let's hear. I want you to push through it. Try and do it.
With Kano?
Yeah.
No, there's going to be a lot of C words. There's going to be a lot of.
You don't have. You can cut out the profanity. Just go for the Australian. That
All right,
you know
I'll
you're
just
so
do
good
it in an
at.
Australian accent.
Yeah, PG Kano.
Hey everybody, welcome to Franchise Killer. If you like listening to this podcast, you have to go on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. Because if you don't, I'm going to take my knife, slit it down your throat, and make you bleed up a 5-star review. You got that? That's what I thought. And if now it's starting to turn into something else, I think. Oh, it's British. It turned out to be British the whole time. But honestly, if you want to give us a 5-star review on Apple, that's the best thing you can do because an algorithm puts us to the front because we want to be in front of other people. Thank you very much. Also, we have an Instagram, a YouTube, and a Twitter. Go check us out. Tell your friend. Try to get that word of mouth going.
That's David's Arcana is starting with an accent and turning into something else.
What's that tattoo on your shoulder? That wasn't there before.
Who did you kill?
I killed my ego.
Our audience killed all of
my pride.
There's bound to be a fighter for Earth somewhere in there.
David, do you want to do the read that story for us from the old Wikipedia?
First learned about this 7 years ago. On a mission in Brazil to capture a wanted fugitive. When we got there, it tore through our unit in seconds. The target had superhuman abilities. It had the same marking you do, Cole.
It's a birthmark.
What do you mean?
He was born with it.
It's not a birthmark, Cole. It means you've been chosen.
Throughout history, different cultures all over the world reference a great tournament of champions. That dragon marking? I think it's an invitation to fight for something known. As Mortal Kombat.
In 17th century Japan, Lin Koi assassins led by Bikon kill the warriors of the rival Shirai Ryu ninja clan led by Hanzo Hasashi, including Hanzo's wife and son. In a rage, Hanzo kills the attackers. Hanzo fights Bihan, but Bihan stabs him with his own kunai. A dying Hanzo tells Bihan to remember his face and dies, resulting in his soul being condemned to the Netherrealm. Raiden, God of Thunder, arrives and takes Hanzo's surviving infant, whom Bihan did not notice, to safety. That kind of sucks. In the present, the realm of Outworld has defeated Earthrealm in 9 out of the 10 tournaments known as Mortal Kombat. If Earthrealm loses the 10th tournament, the rules state it will be conquered by Outworld. However, an ancient prophecy states that the blood of Hanzo Hasashi will unite a new generation of Earthrealm's champions to prevent an Outworld victory. Aware of this, soul-eating sorcerer Shang Tsung, who has overseen the last 9 victories, sends his warriors to kill Earthrealm's champions, identified by a dragon mark, before the next tournament begins. One such champion, a former professional MMA fighter named Cole Young, is attacked alongside his family by Bihan, who now calls himself Sub-Zero. However, Special Forces Major Jackson Jax Briggs rescues the Youngs, directing them to find his partner Sonya Blade. Jax stays to battle Sub-Zero, but loses his arm in the process. Cole tracks Sonya to her hideout, where she is interrogating a captive Australian mercenary named Kano. She reveals that she and Jax have been investigating Mortal Kombat's existence and that the Dragon Mark can be transferred to anyone who kills the original bearer. They are attacked by Shang Tsung's assassin, Scythoth.
Scythoth, I think.
Cyclops.
Scythoth.
Scissors.
Scythoth.
Just
I got it.
Scythoth.
But Kano kills him with Cole and Sonya's help. They travel to Raiden's temple and meet Earthrealm champions Liu Kang and Kung Lao before being brought to Raiden, who is critical of the newcomers. They are joined by Jax, whom Raiden rescued and fitted with a set of mechanical arms. Shang Tsung attempts to attack the temple, but is stopped when Raiden shields it from intrusion, while Sonya helps Jax recover. Cole and Kano train with Kang and Lao to unlock their Arcana, a special power unique to all Dragon Mark bearers. All Dragon Mark
It's
bearers.
Arcana.
Yeah,
Arcana,
Oh,
dude.
dang
Come
it.
on.
I lost. I lose.
So, going into this movie, I was kind of hoping for I don't know exactly what I was hoping for, but I was hoping for something a little more embracing of the wackiness of Mortal Kombat
I agree.
while also, giving us the blood, improving some of the things that were wrong with the previous movies.
So,
Like a little
can you clarify wackiness of the first movie or wackiness of the game?
of the games. Like, yeah, I wanted it to take some more of that kind of, like, I think this movie at times tries to be too serious, and it doesn't quite know tonally what it wants to be, because then other times when Kano's around, it leans into, like, the goofier
Right.
side of it that I like. And there's a lot of fun gags in here, too, that really make me think it knows what it is. But then,
Yeah.
like, this beginning, I do really like it as a piece of almost drama and
It's
action.
shot well.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool opening, establishing shot of Hanzo and Bihan. Bihan being the Sub-Zero and Hanzo being Scorpion. And basically their origin story and their almost, I don't know, eternal
Myth in the making.
rivalry. Yeah. And I think that's cool. But this movie, it doesn't commit to that tone once that's over. But I do still. I guess what I'm asking is what are y'all's feelings about this opening act, and how do you think it sets up your expectations for the rest of the movie, and what kind of movie do you want this to be?
Can I add a second part to that along the lines of what kind of movie do you want this to be? Is, I guess, what's everybody's background with the game series? Because I think
Right.
that will influence your expectations of the movie.
Yeah, so Noah, you go for it since you picked these.
So for this one, I would actually like a little bit more of the OG Mortal Kombat movie wackiness, just a tinge, not in like the kind of cringe stuff that they have, but like the I guess they're planning to do a sequel, but I wanted to see more about the tournament and more about, actually Liu Kang, who I really like. And you didn't get to have that almost, prophecy. Like, I mean, it did have the prophesied character, but who we got was freaking White Bread Cole.
Yeah, but did you have any relationship with the game at all?
Oh, well, I was gonna get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
After a moment. And where it does, go well is in its relation to the more modern games, which I played. I think I did 10 a little bit with you, Reese, and I actually enjoy those, and I really like the story that they brought into that more so than the others. Or maybe it was 9, I don't know.
It was 10.
10 is the reboot.
10 is the reboot, and I actually enjoyed 10 a lot, and even though I didn't get full on into it, it was cool to have a story in that.
Who's your main?
Oh, I think I talked about it last time, but I did some noob Cybot. I did a little bit of Ermac. I really like Raiden though. Raiden's my favorite.
AJ, how about you?
So expectations. So I did not see Annihilation for
Smart choice.
full transparency. I
Dodged
did
a
see the
bullet
Alex
there.
Garland movie, but not this one.
Big difference, I must
Yeah,
say.
so expectations, I guess, I had seen the 92 version and saw that campiness, and I actually did hope for something more along the tonal lines of Mortal Kombat 10, 11, because those were kind of the first games in the franchise that I really played a bit. And I guess I remember, 2 or 3 way back in the day, just tangentially, but I did appreciate the kind of more serious style. I think the center focus on Cole as a character was maybe the misstep there. But I did appreciate the kind of maybe maturing it a little bit, maybe, while still
Yeah.
keeping, some of the wittiness, the dialogue, and that cheesiness along for the ride. Although my main is Katana, and she wasn't even in this, so
Hey, me too.
epic fail.
I'll go around the loop before I go into any other opinions. But David, what about you?
I didn't really grow up playing the games all that much. I first played like the OG game back in college for the first time, which was fun. It was, it's fun going back to retro games. I didn't really play it again until I think Mortal Kombat 10. Reese, I think you insisted we all play it at one point, and I'm a Katana main as well.
Really?
Yeah, I like Katana and
Maybe
Smoke.
you said that last episode. I don't remember.
You remember Smoke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the two that I main the most. And it was fun, but it's not something I go back to. I don't really remember the plot of the games. Overall, though, I definitely lean slightly against what you guys were saying. I think more serious is better. I think that the reason I didn't like it before was how campy it was. And this one did a balance, and I think once they started to try to blend it and add a little more campiness, it's when it started to lose me a little bit.
So,
and the plot, obviously.
I actually agree. I wasn't talking about the campiness, just to clarify. I wasn't talking about the campiness of the original Mortal Kombat. I was more talking about the character dynamic. And kind of the whole, the story's trajectory of, Liu Kang starting out not really... I mean, he has ability, clearly, and then, like, towards the end, he develops his power and whatever.
Yeah.
But in this one, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but I don't really I mean, they have a different way of getting their
Yeah.
power, and
I'm sure everybody here was thinking, like, why are we looking at Cole, and when are we
Yeah.
going to start seeing Liu Kang?
yeah, and
Is
then
Cole
he
even a
comes,
character in the games? I didn't even recognize
No,
him.
he's
Yeah.
created fresh for this.
Yeah, and I guess like that's well, we'll talk about it more. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go into it right now.
Oh, and
Alright.
Kenshi with the blindfold.
Yeah. Arena.
Yeah, so most of my experience with Mortal Kombat was from, I think it was either 10 or 11. It was one of the games you bought, Reese, and I had played it with you. The ones I loved playing were Cyrax and I think I did Sub-Zero and Scorpion, like kind of went between those two.
Because they're cool.
Just because they're cool, and I like anybody with a mask on, so... Not to say I was very good at it, but it was fun mashing buttons and killing things. So
Yeah.
before that, I think I maybe saw one of the arcade games at some location. Maybe it was Pinballs or I don't know where. But yeah, played that maybe once, but that was a while ago. I
Yeah.
don't even remember it.
Speaking of which, go back to Mortal Kombat Annihilation if you want to hear a funny story about Noah trying to play the arcade game as a kid.
Oh yeah, I'm good at it.
So, what I expected from this movie, I was expecting something a little more serious. I think that's what I anticipated going into it. So, with the first scene, as far as basically the Scorpion's background and the feud between the families, I really liked because it was reminding me of that animated series that you showed me, Reese.
Oh yeah, Scorpion's
Yeah.
Revenge.
And so I was thinking, oh, is he gonna get like resurrected or something? And spoiler, we don't actually see that. But so Slightly.
Sorta.
The animated movies or animated features are actually pretty good.
they're really
very
good.
Yeah,
and
that
I
Scorpion
highly
one-
recommend it to anyone that wants to dig a little deeper into Mortal Kombat lore and stuff. So I think that was giving me a huge high at the very beginning where I was thinking, oh, good, I'm going to get to, what was lacking in the previous movies was a sense of what is the overall story with these characters? Like, why are they interacting here? And I never really got that from the others. It's just assumed that you know these people, which is fine. But if you're trying to bring in a new audience, it's nice to have something to sink your
Context.
teeth into, like learn about these characters and, follow through with that. But slowly it started diminishing. So I started on a high and it was diminishing a little after that.
For my part, my characters, I'm a Johnny Cage player.
He's
Love
just
playing.
fun.
Good American boy.
Yeah, love playing Johnny Cage mostly because, at least in my opinion, he's one of the not quite as powerful ones. So when you beat someone online, it's more satisfying. And he's
Just
just
kicking him in the nuts all the time.
and he's got the most hilarious fatalities too. The games, and I also he's a more modern introduction to the franchise, but I played Aaron Black too. He's the Western guy with the cowboy hat, all that. Yeah,
Like
and I think I went into it last time, but I forgot to mention, the games I did play. I think I played it was either Mortal Kombat 1 or 2 at a friend's house. I wasn't allowed to play it because it was violent. And then caught back up with the franchise with, I think, Mortal Kombat Deception, and that was like the PlayStation 2 era. And then played Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11 on the old Xbox, and really love those games. They're the more narrative ones, and they really go all in on the whole X-ray, like you see all the damage to the bones, and then they get really creative with the fatalities and almost
they
a
really do.
Fatality.
comical way. Like they just have fun.
I'm
it's
imagining just
exactly-
this whole brainstorm session where they're like designing like exactly how they can kill someone.
Every
using
single
this
person, like,
weapon.
come back with 100 different ways you could kill somebody. We'll all come with all these
it's
ideas
like
and we'll break it
the
down.
human body is your canvas. Do whatever you want with it.
The government should hire these people to torture.
I think-
like
It made me feel like it was.
I'm joking.
It
Please
made me
don't.
feel like it was designed for you, Reese, because you've always had like kind of this. You humored by
shock factor.
unusual death scenes.
Yeah.
So
Schadenfreude.
yeah.
You've always loved blood and gore.
You were
Well,
always a
it has to
sociopath.
be. It's not so much like the blood and gore. It's more if it's done in a
creative
creative
way,
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering when Reese is gonna snap.
Well, I'll say, like, I really like bloody stuff, but I do not like torture porny stuff that's
Right,
more
yeah.
realistic. I
Tell
like
that to the side of you that likes Berserk.
that is heightened. It is not realistic. And I do like Berserk.
All right.
Okay.
We're not doing this here, guys. We're not doing this here.
Come on. Yeah.
Well, it's
okay.
it's like a Tarantino film where he just puts in more blood than is actually possible to have in a body. It's
Yeah.
more about just the effect
Like
of
Sweeney
that. Yeah.
Todd or
It did seem like this movie, they took some Tarantino notes on some of the blood. Like the intro scene, as realistic as it is, the amount of blood that's coming out of these bodies
Yeah.
is
Well,
gratuitous.
I would argue that that's Mortal Kombat. At least the
Mm-hmm.
10 and 11 that I saw, there were gratuitous amounts
Yeah,
of blood,
yeah.
and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, we got through our prequel or the origin story, but of both Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Fast forward to I don't know if it's today, but we're in
Modern times.
Outer Realm. No, it's the Outer Realm, and we see Shang Tsung, who is he's been cheating his way to success, and he's assembled his warriors again to take out the warriors of Earthrealm before the tournament begins. So his whole plan, every time this tournament rolls around, is just to basically kneecap the other players so that they secure victory every time, and that's what's going to happen again. So he sends Sub-Zero out on his journey to just pick them off one by one, which I think is a interesting idea. It's very kind of Terminator. It's this unstoppable force that is much more advanced in power than all of these kind of underlings who haven't found their power, so they have to kind of avoid Sub-Zero at every turn. I think that's an interesting idea. And let me just say, I do not think a Mortal Kombat movie has to have a tournament. That I know that sounds controversial. I think if you're making a series, there has to be a tournament in one of those movies at some point eventually. But what I need are 1v1 fights where a character dies in a brutal way. That is, for me, what Mortal Kombat is. And if you've played 9, 10, and 11, there's really not much of a tournament in any of those games, and they still feel intrinsically to their core Mortal Kombat.
I think one of my favorite parts of that sequence is just Sub-Zero approaching him, and he calls him Bihan. He's like, "No, I'm Sub-Zero."
I love that he just now decided that after, what,
It reminds me
300
of
years?
like a kid who's tired of their boring name, and they're just like, "No, I want to be called Nighthawk now."
Yes. He's like, I've been spending a lot of time in the U.S., and they got some ideas.
I haven't seen a single time in movies in which that works. A character names themselves.
Yeah, like that could have been so much more effective if the main guy was just like Sub-Zero, like said it, and he walked forward. Like that just establishes that that's his name now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to say like, "Hey, stop calling me that.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
Sub-Zero."
I think that's where the blending of the very real kind of raw version of this movie versus the campy side starts, where, I mean, you could argue it starts earlier, but definitely there. It's the inclusion of the names, and you have to have their names. And how do you incorporate that in a way that isn't odd, you know?
Well, I think it would have been cooler for Sub-Zero if, for whatever reason, that's what the people in his clan originally called him. For, like maybe, I don't know, maybe his ability, he had these supernatural abilities, and they just started calling him Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
And
Or-
then only people knew him as that code name or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, or they go the opposite direction and just do kind of a wink and a nod, break the fourth wall. Like, he says his name, and someone's like, "What kind of name is that, goofball?" And then they just like
Yeah.
move on.
Like
But,
it's almost like they needed Kano in the same room
Yeah.
in that scene, because
Or-
he's the
yeah,
one who
exactly.
like breaks the fourth wall.
Or he still went by Bihan, and then someone from Earthrealm called him. I call that Sub-Zero because, you know,
He's
he
really
throws
cold,
ice
man.
and stuff.
Yeah, they
like
needed
a-
a scene where they
Yeah.
had like all the villains on a board, and he's like, Sub-Zero, Scorpion.
Yep.
Like just
Yeah.
giving him random names.
Easy names.
You guys are a lot like that game.
Regarding the tournament structure, I'm with you, Reese. I think that this was actually a pretty creative plot device or plot structure to kind of get the, the gist of it, I guess the essence or the spirit of the tournament without having, a bracket, really. Because the 92 version of the movie technically had a tournament, but it was just all over the place.
Right.
Whereas this was much more effective, I think.
Yeah, this one did what the first one was trying to do in that regard, where they had the Mortal Kombat. They were all summoned to the place, but they just kept happening upon different characters. Whereas this one more naturally comes across those 1v1s.
Right.
And then at the end, they have a mock tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. As long as it has that kind of format, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
As long as the tournament is in there somewhere, not within the movie, but within the universe.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that we got ahead of the plot here.
Right.
But last thing I do want to say, and we'll get to it later, but this whole movie feels like a wind-up punch where there's like, you don't get the punch, and it kind of relies on the next movie to really deliver something big. That's just kind of how I feel about this whole movie. It's like wind up, wind up, wind up, wind up. And yeah, it does kind of release at the end, but it's it kind of ends abruptly. Anyway, I'll move on. We haven't even introduced our main character yet. Cole Young. He's a character.
And he's actually old.
He's not that old.
He's like married and has kids.
He could be in his like early 40s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not old.
Played by Louis Tan. I think he's a perfectly capable actor, but I don't think he's given a lot of interesting things to do. And he is literally a human punching bag.
Yep. That's his ability later too.
Turn into Aquaman.
Which I think is an interesting idea for his power, but they don't do enough with it. But he's an MMA fighter or something like that, who's just not super successful, and they kind of bring him in to make better fighters look good on the stage.
Here's my problem with him. He doesn't really have any notable characteristics that make me want to root for him that much, except for the fact that he's there for his family. But
You got a tattoo.
Well, they tried.
who wouldn't be?
They try to do the underdog thing.
Yeah. But here's the problem with the underdog is that they've made him past his prime. They decided, okay, he's past his prime, and now he's going to get carried by an ability.
Yeah.
Like, and no one wants to see that, really. They want to see someone that has the ability to grow, and he only grows superficially.
On paper, I really like the idea of creating a new Mortal Kombat character, but make him cool.
Yeah,
I
agree.
really lay your cards on the table and be like, this is a new introduction to the franchise. Make a character that you'd be like, oh, I want to see this guy in upcoming games.
Right.
Like, I want to pick this character. They did not make a character that I would want to pick to play.
Yep. I just think that they should have rebooted again. I know it's beating a dead horse as far as they're concerned, but do Liu Kang again.
Yeah.
Liu Kang is super cool. He is the face of Mortal Kombat other than Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
I think the problem is they're relying too heavily, or they're too heavy-handed with the whole, like, I'm about my family thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, having a family isn't a personality trait. That is
Exactly.
part of a character's setting, and the build of a character. It can influence personality traits, but they didn't really do a lot of work on giving him anything that was uniquely his, except that he has a family.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't have much to grow from there, that like it's holding him back sort of, but not at the same time. And
yeah, I agree. And here's where they unintentionally shot themselves in the foot, is showing a character in the first 5 minutes be way cooler than him.
oh,
And like then going to him and you're like, wow, this guy's like clearly
Literally
not as
getting the
cool.
crap kicked out of him.
Well,
Like,
no, that's a typical
yeah.
thing where this is what you strive to be. Like, it's like, oh, once you finally become something equivalent, it's more satisfying.
No,
You don't.
Right.
but the point is, they already had Scorpion defeated, which set up the fact that you can follow him on whatever hell path to, get his vengeance back. Which I know that's the plot of the animated
show,
one,
yeah.
which is so freaking good. And maybe that's why I am, conflating the two, because that one's really good. And
I think
comparing it to
Scorpion
this
is
one,
cooler in this because he's in it less.
that's fine, except that why show him in the first place if he's not going
Because
to
it
have
makes
a big...
that ending scene so much cooler.
No, but think about it this way. The ending scene is so much cooler because the beginning scene is really cool, but the beginning and the end really have no connection plot-wise to the rest of the story.
They do. Because
No, it's so much cooler because Sub-Zero freezes everybody.
He's the main character is the ancestor of Scorpion. That's
Yeah,
the
he ends up...
connection.
But he, like
That's
imagine...
literally, he sees visions of Scorpion throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, okay, just because they artificially connected them doesn't make them, they have no connection other than that, a long time
blood?
ago.
I
blood-wise.
actually agree with Noah. I think that they could have done more with Scorpion's character, or at the very least, tie in more with whatever Johnny Young or whatever his name is, Cole Young.
Yeah, Cole Young.
Yeah, I think they could have done something more with tying in the history with his character, but there's kind of nothing other than flashbacks.
Here's what I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen the fact that he loses his fights is because he chooses not to win. And whatever reason that is.
Would be
maybe
more of
he
a
gets
character
flashbacks of whatever, and I don't know. Doesn't matter. He might have some reason for, deciding not to win, humbling himself some way, and then now he has to actually fight, therefore he can win. But then, as a connection to Scorpion, in order to keep Scorpion in this story, because they clearly want to, they could actually make him as a plot point of, we have to get Scorpion, he's the only one who can face Sub-Zero. But they don't do that. They kind of have Raiden
that would
later
be
on,
cool,
just
as
like
long
Hugo.
as they don't show him as much, or don't he's not part of the.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't. In this case, they wouldn't have to. But you'd also know. Oh yeah, I know he's coming back somehow, and that's gonna be cool.
Well, yeah,
but they do
'cause-
kind of. Go ahead.
Well, I'm with Reese here. You either have Scorpion, front and center, and it's his story, period, or he's, as kind of like this cameo almost. Otherwise, he's going to be a show stealer.
Well, I agree. That's why I think he doesn't need to be in this. But he is the best part, which is why, since they're including him, they might as well have included him all the way.
Okay. I mean, I agree to some extent.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be people out there who agree with Noah.
Yeah.
We'll let the listeners decide.
We'll move on. So we have the attack on the city or the small town by Sub-Zero.
Throw snowballs at them.
Yeah, really cool sequence, I think, though. They do a really good job of making Sub-Zero seem like a kind of unstoppable force who's basically 10 tiers above everyone in terms of capabilities and power. We're quickly introduced to Jax, and I do kind of like how, Sub-Zero wipes the floor with Jax, but it sets up the inevitable metal arm Jax that we know and love from the video games. I thought that was a good... And the ice effects are so good.
They did a really good job with the ice effects and the lightning.
Yeah, when he shoots the shotgun and the little we saw that scene in the trailer, but how Sub-Zero grabs the front of the gun, and it's just, you see the little pellets coming out slowly from the thing.
Yeah.
It just looks awesome, and how he then grabs his fists and turns his arms into ice dust.
That is literally out of the game. That's what that felt like.
Yeah, but that was a cool scene. And this is after Jax, runs into... He had run into him earlier at the ring, commented on his fighting. And later, once Sub-Zero attacks, he's like, hey, get in the car, let's get out of here. And he and his family jump in the car. And then he's told to drive off to Sonya, and Jax fights Sub-Zero. So that's kind of the setup there. How do y'all feel so far about, did y'all like Jax, or actually in general, how do you feel about the casting in this movie? Let's just talk about that.
They definitely look the part. I think the casting is fine. There's something, though, that's very off about the delivery here and there. I feel like it's going back to that weird splicing of campy but serious. And I could find that being a difficult task for actors where they're given sort of campy moments and lines to produce, but it's also it's kind of also being taken seriously. So I find my mind being confused or conflicted about how I'm supposed to interpret a scene sometimes because of it. But otherwise, I do like the casting so far. Speaking of which, Kano just...
Yeah, and so we do quickly run into Sonya Blade and Kano, so we can go ahead and talk about them as well at the base where Jax told them to go.
So I liked Jax, and it's funny that the first time I see him, I'm like, all right, when's he gonna lose his arms?
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
The second that you see that
Yep.
he has his normal arms, you're like, oh
Well,
boy.
once-
That actor,
he
by the way,
gets-
that's Makad Brooks. Just want to throw
Yeah.
that out there.
Once he gets that face off with Sub-Zero, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Oh, there it is.
And I think this is the moment where I was wondering, are they gonna like really go for it as far as violence, and if they were going to replicate, you know, the games, and it was definitely in this moment when he started like bending his arms and then
Yeah.
using the force. I was like, oh god, they're gonna do it.
They do kind of a Wolverine thing with
Yeah.
Sub-Zero too. Like when he's using his powers, it's like breaking his skin as well, and there's
Right.
like kind of blood mixed in with the
Yep.
ice as well. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So this isn't.
Yeah.
He can't just willy nilly do it for funsies. Like it kind of hurts him as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that.
So that was cool to see. Definitely, I think a lot of these battles or the aftermath of the battles are kind of my highlights from this movie.
Yeah. So Sonya Blade and Kano. Sonya Blade, she's kind of like the exposition machine here, and I think she's saddled with some of the worst lines in the movie. But I actually really like the physicality and the look of this actress here, and I think she does the best she can with what she's given. And that's what's her name? Jessica McNamee. I kind of grew on the Sonya in this one, and I think out of the three that we've seen, she's like easily the best.
Yeah.
I actually agree. I thought I wasn't going to like her that much. I liked her better than the others. Well, I actually like Jax too.
Yeah.
But he didn't give that much screen time. But she was actually believable in her
Right.
role.
I liked her minor kind of story struggle where it's kind of everyone's been given this,
Mark.
tag and mark of being Earth's heroes, and you can tell she kind of wants to be.
She wasn't a damsel either.
Well, I think
Yeah.
both Kano and Jax got their marks in like combat at some
Right.
point in military.
So
like
it's
they
not
like
not
are-
necessarily that they earned it. It's kind of questionable that they earned it. They weren't chosen, but they were given because of
especially Kano.
combat
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
And Kano, played by Josh Lawson, I think he's, apart from maybe dropping the F-bomb like 500 too many times, like I think he really
He is Kano.
He
Kano's
is Kano.
yeah, he injects a lot of energy and fun into this movie and gets a few
Yeah.
good
Yep.
quips in there, especially
Yeah.
when he finally discovers his power.
For him, he's like he's hit or miss with me. Some of the dialogue just makes me think of like a less well written Sawyer from Lost.
Oh, I could see
Where
it.
he's just kind of spouting off
He'd
like
be a
pop
great
culture
Kano, actually.
references.
Yeah, he would be great.
And every now and then you have a good one where you're like, okay, yeah, that was a good one. But I think he was enough to fill that gap, and there was at least some life to him, which sort of helped carry some scenes. Still not my... I think someone else could do a better version of Kano, but he was fine.
He just gave me slightly too many redneck vibes.
Something...
I mean, Kano.
Something that I found funny was I found out that someone else being considered for his role was Joel Edgerton. And before I learned that, I actually thought he kind of reminded me of him. But
Okay.
anyway.
So yeah, I think we're mostly positive-ish on Kano. I think he.
I like him.
Here's the thing: even if you don't like him, I think the movie needed some energy,
A little
at
levity.
this point.
Yeah.
Like something to kind of, I don't know.
Like I said, he carries a scene to some degree. Like I'm actually listening to what's happening. Whereas
Yeah.
if you had all of these characters without a little spice to it, I think I would have overlooked some important details.
So at this point, we do have a fight. Shang Tsung sends Reptile, or in this case, David, what was the name? Shizak or something like that?
Shizak.
I don't even want to try to say it.
Shizoth.
Don't make me do it.
Shizoth.
Sizoth.
Sizoth.
Scythoth?
Sends that creature after him. This would have been that third ninja that would turn from a lizard into a green ninja that looks much like Sub-Zero and Scorpion, but green.
Okay, as weird as it is, how fun would it be if he did turn into like a human, like after a little while fighting him?
I kind of wanted it, but also I'm
And it
like,
was Steve Buscemi.
for me,
Oh my gosh.
Reptile always seemed like C tier Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat
Yeah,
character.
he is.
I
so
don't
it-
think many people really pick him.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
There's reptile people out there, but I do like that they threw.
Wait,
this-
there are reptile people?
yes.
Hillary, are you
Lizard
listening?
They're going to come out one of these days.
But it was kind of an inventive fight. I did
Yeah.
like the using of the flare to stab into the creature to
Yeah.
find it as they're fighting, and then I liked how Kano used its acid drool to unlock his cuffs, and then he rips its heart out, which is our first like big fatality of the
That
movie.
part
I
was
feel like.
cool.
So here is one of the things for me that I was torn on in this movie, and that was the not the fact that it's violent. I was okay with the increased violence, but the realism mixed with the fact that Kano can just reach in seemingly and grab someone's heart through like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, they did Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but more what I'm getting at is there's a lot of stuff where you had to suspend your disbelief, but then they wanted
Yeah.
to level it in certain areas that like the first fight with Scorpion and
Yeah, I
Sub-Zero.
I think something we're gonna definitely get into in our reviews is I think this movie is tonally kind of a mess.
yeah.
Like, and I don't think it's terrible as a result, but it definitely doesn't quite know
Yeah.
precisely what it wants to be.
I think they should have just picked a direction, and I would have been down for
Yeah.
either direction.
I think what you're talking about too, as far as suspending disbelief, is there's an element of kind of anime moments to it,
Yeah.
where if you're watching an anime and you see that happen, you're like, oh yeah,
yeah.
of course, like whatever, you don't
Yeah.
bat an eye about it. But it's transferring that into the cinematic where you're kind of confused because you're so used to a certain degree of continuity that
Yeah.
you don't usually find in anime all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah, exactly.
That said, even from the very beginning, even at this movie's most serious, the guy, the Hanzo, basically takes his wife's gardening tool, affixes it to a rope, and then proceeds to brutally destroy.
That's
like,
no gardening tool.
Yeah, 15 sold. I mean, it's just.
I did that initial scene when his wife is gardening with that. I'm thinking, what is she using that for?
Well, apparently that tool is actually used for gardening.
Really?
And
Oh, okay.
ninjas.
Interesting.
That's so cool.
ninjas actually
Interesting.
took that from gardeners and were like, "This
Kunai.
is a kunai, and it's a useful
that's
weapon."
that's really cool.
So, yeah,
then,
that's-
Or it's
yeah.
actually like for bricklaying, I think. But
Man,
yeah, it's kind of a
men's brains.
multi-purpose. Yeah.
Hey,
Men's brains, man. They,
They're like, "Huh,
I could use this as a weapon.
But yeah, I mean, and at the very first scene, you also have Bihan with a ice spike coming out of his hand. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's you just
you really got to be on your guard when those are out.
good one.
I think I'm fine with that, and it's mostly because once you get into these fight sequences, that's when you're called back to realizing, oh yeah, this is like the Mortal Kombat games, you know? This is something you would see as a fatality.
Yeah, and you've
in
got all
the
these different
sequence.
venues
Yeah.
too. Like
So,
every venue is different.
Like him punching into the chest and pulling out a heart, like that's what you want
That
to
is
see.
Kano's
because
fatality
that's-
move.
Because that's Mortal Kombat.
And they're actually in this. They're kind of split three ways with a bit of the old Mortal Kombat, the original, a bit of the game, and then a bit wanting to be their own cinematic, realistic thing.
That would be a good segue into talking about Liu Kang.
Yeah,
Because
so
his entrance is in this section too.
Yeah, so basically, Kano is out of there, but Sonya's like, "Hey, we'll pay you $3 million or whatever if you take us to the temple or wherever this place is out in the desert." And he's like, "Okay." I mean, he doesn't believe her, but then she convinces him, and of course, she doesn't actually have that amount of money, but they're off anyway. They drop in on the desert. A lot of cool kind of establishing shots of the desert. They get in a little tussle where Sonya almost kills Kano in a one-on-one fight. Then Liu Kang comes onto the scene. Very cool sunset shot. It's almost like a Luke Skywalker walking in on the.
It feels like that,
yeah.
doesn't it?
If Luke Skywalker could shoot fireballs.
Yeah, and he shoots a fireball. Kano's like, What just happened? And then he guides them towards the temple. So then we're introduced officially to Kung Lao, Liu Kang, and Raiden once more. Irina, what'd you want to say?
I was just saying, once that scene happened where he's walking towards them, the sunset behind him, you see his silhouette, and it looks exactly like the Liu Kang from the first Mortal Kombat. Like, you got the hair, the kind of poofy hair mullet thing going. Yeah. I was like, oh,
sash,
I know
the
who
red
that
sash
is.
looking thing with the shirtless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember getting really excited because I'm like, oh, I wonder who they cast for this character, you know? And I found Liu Kang to be a little more lacking than I was hoping.
I agree. He very much looks like the part,
Yeah, he
but
does.
there's just his personality is off.
Lacking charisma.
He doesn't have that charisma. He doesn't have the right energy. He's like he takes the role of a guide, but he's supposed to be the prophesied one, or at least a big powerhouse.
And I should say his name's Ludi Lin. It's
Yeah.
that actor. But again, you got to separate yourself from the original property.
Yeah.
Does he serve the right purpose in this movie? As the movie is trying to like that, they want this guy to not be a central focus. He is the guide, and he's the one that helps train them. Does he fulfill that?
Even that,
Not in the way I
really.
want him
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
I think there's I do want to build up this protagonist, and I get that you don't want Liu Kang to be too much of a distraction, but at the same time I want to be excited about seeing him in the following films, whereas I don't really feel like there's much of a curtain to be drawn on him. Basically, like I wanted something more of a silent power to him, where he's very kind of modest and monk-like. That's kind of the impression I get that they're trying to do, where he's powerful, but he's monk-like. You know, he kind of holds it back. But I wanted a little bit more of that. Oh, I feel like he has huge potential behind him, but he's not showing everything. You know.
Yeah, this is one thing that they did in his portrayal that I thought was, and maybe I don't really know too much about Mortal Kombat, so maybe this is normal for Liu Kang, but he was very willing to just always be using his fire. Like, here, let me use my fire as a torch,
And he
Right.
does
Or
that
here,
more in this.
Let me do that as a little light for this, but then, you know, whenever he uses it against someone, it never really works very well. Except for at one point, but that person was literally trapped.
Right.
And I wanted to see that more as a card that he played as a last resort. You know,
Right,
he may
yeah.
rely on his martial arts, but then in the middle of his martial arts, he might throw out a little fire in
Yeah.
there to, you know, instead, he like casts a Kamehameha, and then it misses. And
Sure you can.
That dragon was pretty slick, though.
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it looked really cool. But I think they could have led up to that
Yeah.
moment way better.
If they had combined this one with the Liu Kang from the first,
Yes, yeah.
that would be perfect.
Yeah,
'Cause
I agree.
The complaint we had with the first movie was that you never even got to see a tease of his true abilities.
Yeah,
It
you
was
just got a little
Yeah.
little fire.
Yeah.
But not as much as you want. Like you thought you'd see that more in the
Yeah,
second one, and then they
exactly.
didn't really do it.
No, they didn't go that far.
Yeah. One person I realized we haven't talked about. He's on the screen right now. Raiden.
There's so many characters.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This movie throws a lot of characters in
Yeah.
there, and I do think it relies very highly on the a sequel. You know,
Yes, I agree.
this is just establishing a lot of
Right.
the characters and just the world, I guess. Whether you see that it's successful or not. Raiden is one of the ones that I could have used more of. I am kind of disappointed with him. Like, he's got the best entrances and exits.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when he's actually speaking, like, I'm kind of down with what you're saying, but I want more of that, like,
needs a bigger
authority
presence.
and more of that
Yeah.
just be bigger. Like,
Honestly,
be-
he's only good because of the effects, I feel like. And the effects are good.
Yeah. So yeah, a little disappointed in Raiden, even though I think they nailed his look, and that's I guess a critique of this entire movie's cast is like nailed the look, a little disappointed in the character.
Well,
Yeah,
his eyes were a bit off-putting. I think.
That's what I said. I said the same
I think
thing.
they should either have gone less or gone more. Like,
think-
make it completely whited out, or
I think they needed to have little like tendrils of lightning coming out,
Like
of them
from the
every now and
original?
like
again.
Thor.
Oh, yeah, a little bit like Thor. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah. Okay, so they're led to the temple and they begin working on trying to find their arcana. Kano gets his first, and I think what is the funniest scene in the movie?
Yeah.
Where I think Kano's humor is actually firing on all cylinders during this dinner table scene.
Yeah.
Just all of his quips are good, and when he finally just rages out and the laser comes out of his eye, it's the one moment in this movie where I genuinely thought was legitimately funny.
Yeah.
Give me an effing shrimp.
That's better
think it
than
was an egg
fireballs.
roll.
Like, just the
yeah.
I liked that moment, and of course it was like perfect. Of course, that would be the way Kano gets his powers,
Yeah,
like in
yeah.
some rage fueled, I don't know, tirade on
Egg rolls.
egg rolls or something. Yeah, it just makes sense.
Oh, speaking of egg rolls, I actually liked Kung Lao. He didn't have a big enough
yeah.
role, but I enjoyed
I
his
liked Kung
presence.
Lao,
Yeah,
too.
I liked
Kung Lao
his
is
character.
so cool. He comes about when
Just
Shang Tsung.
clarifying, the association there is because he was the one that was going to be passing the egg rolls.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah.
was-
Sorry, I
For any
Oh, it
listeners who have
almost
not
sounds-
seen the movie.
yeah, it
He
is a
was
weird segue.
Withholding egg rolls from Kano.
Speaking of egg rolls, yeah. Sorry, I didn't even think to mend that gap.
It's because he
there.
looks like an egg roll.
I realized that really could have come out.
That's his
weird.
arcana.
Yeah.
It's his
But-
arcana.
But yeah, Shang Tsung and Sub-Zero and all his cronies kind of infiltrate the temple and make their presence known. They're going to take out the competition here. Raiden then creates a force field with the inevitable big blue beam in the sky. That happens, so they buy themselves some more time to work on finding their arcana. This is the whole point where I was like, why wasn't Liu Kang working on this earlier? Like, why weren't we getting these people together earlier in the story? I feel like the tournament is almost inevitable at this point. Maybe it isn't. They never really established when this tournament's supposed to be, so who knows?
You're so
But-
right, though, because it's like Jax and Sonya and sorry, what's his name? Cole. Wow, what a generic name.
Bobby,
Okay.
Jacob,
Yep.
Chad.
Dylan.
I'm just kidding.
I would have loved if they gave him some extreme name like Sonya Blade or
Yeah.
something. You know,
They should have, honestly.
They should have.
Blonde stallion.
Yeah.
I would have liked it way more.
No,
actually,
but
if that
the
were
funny
his
thing
name.
is they've happened to find this place after doing a bunch of research on a basically a birthmark that nobody really knows where it came from. On some fluke, Sonya figures it out, and then they've come to the desert, and Liu Kang and everybody, all they have to say is like, this is all we have. Disappointed.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is,
like,
Liu Kang's
how are they supposed to know?
Like, the funny thing is, Raiden had given Liu Kang the job, like, hey, find all the people out there and gather them together. And I looked at all the people in the temple, and all of them found their way there, except for Liu Kang, who I guess is just, or except for Kung Lao, who's Liu Kang's friend. He's just kind of like already
friend
there.
Whatever.
So I was like, what were you doing, Liu Kang? Like, you gathered Jax, who was already practically dead.
Yeah.
Like, you're terrible at your job of gathering
He's like,
these
we don't
people.
have much time. It's like, I'm sorry.
Raiden had like saved Cole as a baby, so like he should have known where he was.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Or not Cole. Cole's
they
grandfather,
actually,
mother.
yeah.
I'm not clear on what.
Also the fact that this is the weirdest thing to me. At the beginning of the story, Sub-Zero kills what's his name, Hanzo, or Scorpion, who was the previous like warrior with the symbol.
Right.
And at that point, Raiden probably can put two and two together that, maybe they're coming after these people. Perhaps I should put Liu Kang or someone on this mission ahead of time, or set a plan in motion somehow.
No.
Where the weakness of the plot, I don't mind that it's not like, truly a tournament.
Right.
But like, why is the tournament even a thing if it doesn't even matter if they're breaking the rules, or there's no rules about killing everybody if it's not a tournament? Well, that just kind of like begs the question, and just, I don't know. Seems like it's the
my
cart
problem
before
is
the
like,
horse kind of thing.
Yeah, Raiden can't get involved. I get that. He says that because it's against the rules. But Shang Tsung can, and no one's going to do about it. These elder gods aren't going to
It almost seems
him.
like if Raiden interfered and broke the rules, nobody would care.
Yeah. I know.
Well, especially since the other elder gods are apparently like too lazy to do anything. So
exactly.
So who's actually enforcing any rules, and what are these rules even matter? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the part where if you really pull at the thread, you're kind of like, why is this even happening?
Don't think too hard. That's what I learned.
Don't think too hard while you watch this movie.
Yeah. And that's probably a problem with just it being based off of a very simplistic video game that only recently started to find a grander narrative.
But I think the video games have a better narrative.
I mean, but they've had 3 video games to do it.
Well, in the first one that they started, they had a better narrative.
I don't even think you can remember it.
I somewhat do. I remember Shao Kahn is invading, and he's got these like green whatevers. But
Okay,
he starts
I believe you. I just, but that again, a game, you have 12 hours to flesh out that narrative versus a movie.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Well,
you do have a lot
but
more
if you're creating a character, you can create a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could have done better. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's more so we are criticizing this movie quite a bit, and I want to say that, like we've said for many movies before, the reason it is being heavily criticized is because of the fact that it does have potential. Once more,
very much so.
There is such a cool story in the Mortal Kombat concept, and it just has not come out yet.
Yeah.
I think we need to move on with the plot soon.
Let's go ahead and move on with it.
During an argument, Kano awakens his arcana, the ability to shoot a laser out of his right eye. Cole is unable to awaken his, despite his persistence. Disappointed with Cole, Raiden sends him back to his family. God, that makes it sound like Raiden's like, nah, I was wrong about you, man. All right. Raiden sends him back to his family while revealing that he is a descendant of Hisashi. Shang Tsung gathers his warriors, including Kano's former ally Cabal, to attack the temple. Cabal convinces Kano to defect and sabotage the shield. During the fray, Jax awakens his arcana, granting him superhuman strength and upgraded arms. Concurrently, the Youngs are attacked by Goro. Cole rouses his arcana, giving him a suit of armor and a set of tonfas. He kills Goro and helps repel the attack on the temple. Shang Tsung and Sub-Zero are infuriated when Raiden discloses Cole's bloodline before he teleports most of Earthrealm's fighters to the Void, a safe space between realms. Lau, however, saves Cole from Sub-Zero and has his soul taken by Shang Tsung. Cole proposes a plan to force Outworld's champions into a single combat with those from the Earthrealm before neutralizing Sub-Zero together, forcing the tournament that Shang Tsung tried to prevent. Agreeing with the plan, Raiden gives Cole Hanzo's kunai, which still has Hanzo's blood on it, telling him that using it would get Hanzo's spirit to fight alongside him. Raiden transports Cole and his allies to their targets. While defeating Outworld's champions, Sonya kills Kano and acquires his dragon mark, while also getting the ability to fire purple energy blasts as her own arcana, which she also uses to kill Melina. Sub-Zero abducts Cole's family to lure him into a one-on-one fight. Overpowered by Sub-Zero, Cole uses the kunai and drains Hanzo's blood left on it, releasing Hanzo as the vengeful specter, Scorpion. Recognizing Cole as his descendant, Scorpion helps him defeat Sub-Zero and frees his family before immolating Sub-Zero with Hellfire. Thanking Cole for freeing him and requesting that he take care of Hasashi bloodline, Scorpion departs as Raiden, the other champions, and Shang Tsung arrive. Shang Tsung vows that next time he will bring armies instead of individual fighters, as he sends his champion's corpse back to Outworld before Raiden banishes him. Raiden declares his intention to train new warriors in preparation for the next tournament, and assigns his current champions to recruit them. Cole then departs to Los Angeles in search of the Hollywood martial artist and movie star, Johnny Cage.
Now we're in the big training phase of all of the characters. Obviously, everyone's doing pretty well except for Cole Young, who is just good at getting beat up. I did forget to mention one of my favorite gags in this movie is the sweep the leg gag on Kano.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who's, that was so funny and just very cleverly done, I thought, as a reference to the game. Just this... And I love when he just jumps up and jumps down and still gets swept. So I thought that was pretty great. But we do get the inevitable second strike of Shang Tsung after Kano betrays them and breaks the staff. Kano betrays them because, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name. Cabal, who worked with Kano previously, is one of the villains, convinces him through, of course, money, to switch to the other side. So they break the shield and infiltrate the temple, and then we get a bunch of kind of 1v1 fights where, for the most part, the good guys take the L on this one. What did we think about the big temple infiltration and subsequent fights after this portion of the movie here?
It was very sudden to me, the whole temple infiltration. I didn't mind so much that Kano was easily influenced because, obviously Kano's out for Kano, so whatever. But it just felt so easy for them to do, I guess.
It's the way they divvied it up in the white place is like, okay, you take this person, you take this person. It's like,
right, yeah. Okay. Yeah, there was something about it that just felt very contrived without really being that satisfying to me. I think that's this movie, though. There are a lot of moments that I do really enjoy thoroughly, but then others that I just think, well, I feel like they could have done that better if they just had spent a little more time, like, doing reiterations of writing this sequence, Like,
so
it feels like the first thumbnail.
So this has never been confirmed, but this was a movie that I think there were a lot of rumors going around at the time that they were slapping this movie together, and it probably should have been delayed, but WB was pushing, like, it has to come out at this time. So they were really on a crunch to get it done.
Yeah,
I think,
that makes sense.
And I think that really starts to show here in the second half of the movie. I think it has some of the best moments, but they're spliced together in an unsatisfying way. Right. Without a lot of, like, satisfying build-up. So I agree with you.
Yeah. That would make sense if that is true, like the way it was put together, then I think that makes sense of what I'm feeling, where there are a lot of good moments, but it's not consistent with some of the less cared for scenes
Yeah.
and sequences.
Well,
I will say we finally get our one good Cole Young scene, and that's his fight against Goro.
Yeah.
I finally started to see some glimmer of something there once he finally defeats Goro and gets his power, but it's instantly like after that he's muted again for some
Yeah.
reason.
I
And
think,
his suit is super lame. It just looks like a rubber thing.
yeah.
It's like
and then
Aquaman.
they have that. Yeah, it literally bends at one point, pretty obviously.
Yeah.
And it just does not look like, it can take a punch, wow. It can take a punch from
Probably couldn't
a
take a
four-handed
punch either.
Hulk.
Yeah. I like the general idea of, though, like, he is established as this person who just gets hit a lot,
Yeah.
and they make that his power. Like,
Yeah.
he gets hit a lot, and then
Yeah.
reflects that energy back on them.
He absorbs it.
Yeah. So cool. I just don't think the execution is perfect.
I think.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is a problem with that, though. He does get hit a lot as a character, but then you go back to the beginning where, he's about to have that MMA fight with that person, and the guy remarks that he doesn't do any defense and he does all offense. Mm-hmm. And maybe
Oh,
he'd
yeah,
win if he
that's
did
right.
defense. So it's not even, it's, I guess it makes up for his problem that he doesn't do any defense.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
With this suit. But it's weird, though. They kind of came at it from the wrong perspective and decided halfway through, well, no, he just gets hit a lot and he can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a missed opportunity in my mind for his character where I think he needs something more than just I'm protecting my family. He needs
Yeah.
some kind of character arc that's more personal to him. And I think it would have been more interesting while this has been done before if it was more of a situation kind of like, the movie The Quiet Man, where he was a boxer that accidentally killed someone and then he retired from boxing, never to do
it
it
could
again.
be like that.
So it doesn't mean that he has to like kill someone, but it could have been there's something like dangerous about the fighting arena where he kind of for the sake of his family doesn't want to involve himself in that
Yeah.
again.
Which
Or
is
like
why
Jack
he's
the Rock
subconscious.
and Daredevil.
Yeah, exactly.
Thinking
It's
fights
been
on
done
purpose
before.
and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, did he even care that Scorpion was his ancestor? Like, was there
No,
even that?
yeah, there's
I
no
don't know.
connection. It's just that, oh yeah, that's my ancestor, and I kind of got a flash of him at one
Yeah.
point, but that's it.
Yeah.
But that what you said would go with the reason why he's always losing the fights and keep that idea that okay, he's just holding back his inner
Right.
monster somehow.
Yeah, and then that would
And
be
that's
really
why he
satisfying
chooses to lose.
when he finally
Yeah.
like decides, okay, I need to fight in
Yeah.
this situation,
And
and
then
then
he
you get that
busts a
knockout
move.
punch,
Yeah.
the uppercut or
I-
whatever, and you're just like, yeah.
In the gore, yeah, I think putting him as a MMA fighter is kind of a weird choice for Mortal Kombat because it kind of sets a limit on his ability. But I would have liked to have seen.
I don't think so. Because, like, you've got Johnny Cage, who's just like he's a
Nut
movie
puncher.
star who
Yeah.
also just
Well,
knows-
he too has a limit on his ability.
yeah, but that's totally
but he's not
acceptable.
the
Yeah.
main character of the series.
I think the whole Arcana thing is what is supposed to bring people to a fighting level with all these other realms. So it's like it's not so much what your vocation is that is limiting you. It's just your ability to tap into this hidden power is
Yeah.
that's what's
Yeah.
you're trying that's the goal.
But I would have liked to have seen more of his ability in a fight rather than, him either being carried by the armor that he gets or
Plot armor.
Yeah.
plot armor or literal plot armor. Because really, he just does. He never shows that he has a real ability, a real reason why he's one of the ones that's chosen to defend.
Right.
I mean,
Except in the Goro fight.
well, he
we're
doesn't
talking
do
about.
anything in that fight until he gets his armor.
I think, here's the thing. What I do think he does is he does an honorable thing where he's like, I am going to draw the attention away from my family.
Right.
He literally has a building brought down on him. He crawls out of that. He even though he's up against this 4-armed thing, he decides to go wailing against it. Like he always, there's something honorable about this guy. He knows he's going to lose, but he's punching things anyway. I just think they could have shown that better. Just leaned into it more.
Yeah.
So
Goro looks like he came out of the Warcraft movie.
He does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would have fit in there pretty well.
How
I
did
think
you
this
guys
is better
feel
than that
about this
movie.
Goro? Yeah, I was going to ask, like...
The effects in this movie
versus
are
the
good.
other.
I think they're good for the budget. Like this is a lower budgeted movie. It's $55 million, not to spoil the later part of our podcast. So that's like, let's say 1/3 of your typical, or no, 1/4 of your typical Marvel movie. So 4 of these equals 1 Marvel movie. That's the type of budget that they're working with.
Wow.
Speaking of which, I was thinking while we were talking about this, how cool would it be if we had a Mortal Kombat universe where each movie was one of the characters sort of like discovering themselves and establishing their power, and then like the Avengers movie would be the actual tournament.
Yeah, it would be real cool if this movie, with Cole as the main character,
Didn't exist.
didn't exist at all. No,
I think,
I would like
for the
it a-
record, I think
I
there's
would
a
like-
right way to do Cole. I just don't
Yeah.
think they
I would
did it
like
here.
it a lot more if Cole was kind of, or this movie was kind of a segue into what this Mortal Kombat versus Avengers movie would be, as Liu Kang and his inner group as the main.
I thought it was Marvel versus
story.
Capcom, not Marvel versus Mortal Kombat.
Versus who owns it? Midway.
Konami?
Midway originally, and then now it's WB Games. But yeah.
But it just would have. It could be. I think. I have hope for the sequel. I
yeah,
do
me
think.
too.
I actually think they might drop Cole and go for a Liu Kang main character in the second one.
We'll see. What I think, and I think
yeah.
we're maybe
Cabal,
being.
he's pretty cool though, I thought.
Yeah, I
He
think
looks
we're-
cool.
I'm not trying to put words in y'all's mouths, but I think we're sounding a little more negative on this movie than we actually feel about it.
No.
At least I am. I know for my part, I'm mildly positive on this overall. Like I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's one of those movies where I'm not going to disown it if the sequel's great and builds off of
Yeah.
it properly. You know, because I kind of like a lot of the things that they set up here. Far.
For all the side characters that were pretty much written off in the 92 version, like Sonya, Jax,
Yep.
I think it did a good job of balancing a, cast of characters instead of a single character.
Right.
Because I still think that Liu Kang was, also mediocre in the first one. There was no continuity to his story. I understand
Yeah.
what they were going for, although he did, was more compelling than Cole here. But overall, the multiple characters here were done better than I think I would have expected.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about some of these fights before we're not quite at the final moment yet, but we get a lot of cool matchups here. Liu Kang gets killed, but he also kills that winged lady with the
Oh, you mean
his hat.
Kung Lao?
Yeah, sorry, Kung Lao.
Yeah.
They're so easy to
I know.
flip-flop.
I know.
Yeah, Kung Lao uses his hat, splits the lady in half, but then he gets his soul sucked by Shang Tsung, which I thought both the hat scene was
Yeah.
awesome, and the soul-sucking scene looked cool, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the most emotion I felt in this movie when Kung Lao died.
Yeah, and
and like that's saying something because I don't think any of these characters really had a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Depth.
Well, I thought it was also cool when Jax finally gets his Arcana.
Yeah, that too was good.
His arms are restored. They kind of what this movie does economically that I do appreciate is they show these little moments. Jax is like, I'm never going to do anything with these arms. Like that's all you need for that side character. And then it's satisfying when he gets his big arms. It's
Yeah.
like very simple, 1, 2, like here's the result. And
Yeah.
and when he does lift that rock, it's kind of effective.
David, what was your favorite matchup?
I really liked Kano ripping out the reptile's heart. That was one of my favorite KOs. But
In this finals,
in the final sequence,
yeah, out of these matchups.
I liked Scorpion's final face-off with Sub-Zero.
Well, duh.
Well, okay. Other than that one, because that's obviously
That's fine. I was just trying to get your input.
Yeah.
I didn't want
Yeah.
you to get on the benches there.
Well, like what if you had to pick another one other than the Sub-Zero Scorpion? Because
Are you
they're not-
invested in the movie at this point?
It's at this point where I literally it started losing me. Reese can attest to this. It's when we were watching this together that my interest started waning. It was after Kung Lao's soul was being kind of ripped out. Like the whole thing, the plot was going downhill for me.
David's
And
over
my
here like,
interest
come
was
on,
waning.
expecto patronum, hurry up, do it.
It's like
it.
Raiden's capable of taking them to the void the
Where's
whole
Harry
time,
Potter?
but now they're like, oh no, let's do it now. But first we have to lose somebody in the process.
It's like Buddy Raiden. You can teleport people. That's not combat against them. Make them teleport away.
Was there a fight you liked, AJ?
I was actually surprised by Kung Lao, the hat. I really was like, oh yeah,
Yeah, that one was good.
you got me there.
I love how he's the only one that just dominates his opponent right in the.
I love how the
a
blood's
flawless
just
victory.
spewing
Yeah.
in his face, and he just has this look of like insanity in his
Yeah.
eyes.
He's
like fatality.
That's why it's so sad when he has to leave.
Yep. Yeah, he was cool. I think he was right. Like Kung Lao's never been a favorite character for me in
Yeah.
the games or anything, but
That
they did him
boosted
right.
I liked
They did
his
him right.
I liked his presence in the show.
And who
Marina-
knows? Maybe they'll
Marina
use
was
that as
done
a
well
catalyst.
too. Like, you
Melina, yeah.
know, Melina, thank you.
Yep.
You know, tasteful is not exactly the appropriate word for her, but her
Right.
mouth thing was done pretty
Gosh,
well
she
balanced
was
instead of just
frightening.
a monster immediately. You know, it splits.
You
up
just had
Yeah.
a nice
like-
toothy smile.
yeah, exactly.
Show me your
she-
pearly whites.
She had that. She kind of came across as like undead, resurrected, some kind of possessed monster.
Isn't she like a
going
clone
on.
of Katana or something? Like, I don't know how you get her before.
Or a
Katana.
twin, or
I don't remember.
I don't know.
I think they're saving some of these characters for later.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I loved the hat being used as a saw. That was an awesome matchup. I loved that part. Mostly that this movie is full of like I'm kind of caught off guard because I get distracted by sort of like the slapped together campy writing, and then all of a sudden you have this really cool face off where you have a fatality at the end. And I'm like, whoa.
Even Sonya
Yeah.
jumping in with her little arm cannon things, like
Yeah.
that could have been cheesy, but it landed pretty well. I
It
thought,
was
so.
fine.
So-
I actually was going to mention I really liked the combat between Sonya and Kano because
Yes,
I think
I would-
it was
yeah.
a nice balance to see kind of these people with superhuman abilities, but then something where she's using her home tactically to take advantage of him.
Yeah.
So I liked having that variety. So you got to see a different environment and how she would use it. So
and I love
was
that
fun to
moment
see.
she like gets the symbol,
Yeah.
the tattoo or whatever.
Yeah.
to-
So that was satisfying for me. I liked that part.
Yeah, I actually think of the mini fights, that one was the better one. I almost didn't consider the Liu Kang a fight because that was just a massacre.
It was a
Or
flawless
sorry, the
victory.
Kung Lao one. But as far as our general main characters go, the Kano Sonya fight I think was the better of them. As cool as the dragon that Liu Kang
Yeah.
summoned was, I think they needed to lead up to some of those spectacles a little better.
So we had the group regrouping and getting into all these various fights. I'm sorry I didn't say that. This was after the Kung Lao death. They get into their various fights. Sonya finds her Arcana by killing Kano. Jax gets his Arcana after having the rocks dropped on him, and he wants to lift the rock to save Sonya.
Pump some iron.
Yeah, pump some iron. So they take care of all that, and obviously Cole gets his Arcana as well by killing after killing Goro or before killing Goro. So now they are on into the final face-off where Sub-Zero finds his family and is like, "Hey, I've got these people here in your original fighting arena here. Here's the bracelet to prove that I captured them." So he kind of leads him via portal to where he is, and lo and behold, a scorpion is brought back from hell, or arrives from hell to finish the fight that they started. And I think this movie, this is the part that I was not on board with the movie, but back on board at this point.
Exactly.
It was such a cool face-off. Like seeing that actor come back and just this final fight, like the emotion comes back into the movie. It's a moment where you finally want to see these, like, you know, what this decade or this centuries-old rivalry come to an end, and after Sub-Zero's killed these people, the loved ones, and has killed team members at this point, and now there's this final face
And
off.
we get the line. We finally get the line we've been waiting for the whole movie.
And the orchestra, the score finally like acknowledges the Mortal Kombat theme as well.
Yeah.
So
At least in a subtle way, or not so subtle, but not so blatantly like
that's the
Techno
Mortal Kombat,
90s dance music.
retro, whatever.
So what'd y'all think about the finale to this movie?
So I think that the fight is really, really cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously a couple of adjustments because I just don't really care about Cole that much.
Yeah, his whole arc and decided like get out of here. I just want to
He's
watch
just
the fight.
punching at the ice the whole time.
It's exactly
And
that.
like you take Cole out of here. In fact, I have like
He gets a good blow on Sub-Zero.
Yeah,
he
though.
does. But I have like a good, fantasy going in my mind where Cole fights him first, and gets a couple of blows on him, puts up a really
Keep
good.
it PG.
Oh my gosh, a little too cold for that.
Said it's
No,
a fantasy.
Anyways, he gets a couple of hits on him, and eventually though he gets dealt a mortal blow or a fatal blow. Doesn't die, but is kind of on the
So
last
not
breath.
a mortal blow.
Well, it would be, and you can have some sort of Deus Ex Machina where Liu Kang comes in and heals him with his fire magic.
Yeah.
But he's dying, he's bleeding out. He sees like the kunai at some point during the fight fell into the ice and is like stabbed into it, and he like reaches for it, and then like he doesn't quite reach it, but his blood on his hand like starts pooling over there. Touches the kunai, and then like suddenly like fire starts erupting, and like out comes frickin' Scorpion. He like shoots out his kunai chain and pulls.
Get over here.
Yeah, and does the get over here, and then their fight starts.
Actually, that's way better.
Like I think that like in my head
Cold
that
Eyes.
fantasy would have been so cool.
But let's not take credit away from this.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I
No,
will.
I know. I'm just saying that's my fantasy for it. But I think this was excellently done, given the story they went with.
yeah, it's so good though. Like I really love how Scorpion comes back here. I want to give other people an opportunity to voice their opinions on this ending here.
It was cool.
Okay, I also have to mention I love when movies use a unique setting as their playground for a battle.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the fact that it was sort of a repurposed actual arena or boxing training arena,
MMA.
basically.
Yeah, I think it was where he worked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it was the
I
Octagon.
I love seeing that environment, but kind of covered in Sub-Zero's work, basically all the icicles and everything. So that was a lot of fun, especially bringing in these ancient souls to battle it out in a repurposed modern environment. So I really love having a setting to look at that's unique. So I liked that face off. I think again that sort of revitalized me watching this.
Yep.
And that's really weird because this whole time you've been following someone else's story, but that 5 minutes in the very beginning between Hanzo and Bihan, you come right back to it, and you're still
You're like,
invested in their feud
Yeah.
particularly. So that's a good
Their
sign.
story is cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that. I just think it was a really good setup, you know, for a good finale.
Yeah. AJ, any thoughts on the final fight or any of that?
No, it was well done and kind of a satisfying final act, and even you get the fan service aspect of it.
Right.
Can easily flop, if they push that too hard. But him taking or Scorpion taking his mask off and doing that fire breath thing, and then you kind of get the undead aspect of it. That was, overall well balanced, I think. And it's a shame that, I think Noah's on the right track, with kind of fixing the big thorn in the side of this movie is Cole, really, in my opinion.
Yeah. So post-fight, we do get our final scene of Cole Young quits his job, and he leaves, and we focus on a poster of Johnny Cage, who will inevitably be in the next film.
Yeah.
Which is a really good teaser, honestly.
Yeah. I find that interesting that it's almost making a comment of how they did Johnny Cage wrong in the sequel.
In the second one.
Yeah, so instead of starting off with Johnny Cage, they're doing the reverse where Johnny Cage doesn't show up in the first, but he is one of those Easter eggs for the second.
They're amping him up as like, no, this is the guy you want to see.
Exactly.
Which I like, which the sequel was like, no, we'll get rid of him.
Yeah, they kill him within the first few minutes.
So yeah, I'm super excited for if and when this thing does come out.
Yeah.
I don't know, we're kind of bending the rules on like franchise killer here because there's technically a sequel confirmed, but we'll get into that. So
As far as an argument goes, the original Mortal Kombat movies died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are just, touching base with what's going on now.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the story portion of this movie here?
Melina is Katana's twin sister.
Oh, cool.
I would also
Hey, that's what I said.
issue a correction that I've been saying 1992 for the first one. It's actually 1995.
Yeah, 95 for the
My
original.
year of birth.
Isn't that weird to think, Noah?
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a quick break. On the other end of this, we will get into our brief reviews of the numbered scores, talk about what critics thought, go into some box office, and close it out with a little bit of franchise talk. So we'll see y'all then. Welcome back. Let's talk Mortal Kombat 2021.
Fight.
David, you want to pick a score at random there?
Yes. First up, AJ. 5.5. Fatality.
So, this movie I actually enjoyed it. I didn't have high hopes going into it. I kind of expected maybe a lot of polish and not so much substance. But I actually enjoyed the action sequences, the choreography, cinematography. Actually, I think was pretty well done. Special effects were all very well done. Really, all around characters in general. I mean, I thought Kano was actually spot on. He was entertaining. That I think kind of helped things keep the levity amidst all the gore and stuff. Even, I guess, Sonya, who can be kind of seen as a throwaway character, especially in other iterations, was pretty well done. Honestly, it comes down to, the central character. I don't have a problem with, the plot contrivance of not necessarily a traditional tournament or creating a character for this movie, but his motivation just was not there. So it was hard to get behind him. I mean, he was all right. He wasn't terrible, but I just wish he had some more motive,
oomph.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just some more emotionality, some more emotional draw, really, just to get you behind him instead of him turning into Aquaman and talking to dolphins, pretty much. I don't know. I mean, the fight sequences were great. Kind of what I would expect a Mortal Kombat movie to be. I just think that they had an opportunity to really get a decent story together because overall it had pretty good continuity, I think. It just, the motivation for things was not there. Especially with the rules of like, oh, we can just, we've been cheating this whole time. We can just kill people whenever. We don't have to have a tournament. It's like, okay, well, that just kind of defeats the purpose of the whole everything, I guess. So, like, that was kind of unnecessary. I had a good time overall. I just needed a bit more character from the main character and a bit more story. So I think 5.5 is fair for that.
Next up, David, also with a 5.5.
Again with the third person.
Yeah, I always do it. 5.5. I think I'm going to bump it up to a 6. Watching it the second time around, especially the intro scene, it just makes me realize just how close they were to just nailing it. And then and it really does hold your attention. It does seem like it's a third act problem. Second act problem? It's a problem. And
Problem of tension starts in the first act, actually.
Yeah.
It just doesn't resolve in the third act. So
Yep.
yeah. Well, I really liked what they did in the beginning, and I liked the character's introduction throughout. I really liked the cinematography. I thought the CGI, especially now that I know what the budget is actually pretty amazing, which is important to me. And overall, the energy is high. But in the end, the plot just loses me. I don't care about Cole. I don't care about Liu Kang, who are two essential characters in this movie. So if you're going to hype up Scorpion, use them, and don't let your other characters fall. So I'm going to leave it at a 6 and say I'm looking forward to the sequel.
Never give up hope.
never surrender.
Never give up hope.
What is going on with your arms? Noah with a 6.5.
Yeah, I as soon as we sat down and I thought about it a little bit more, I had decided that I was going to take it down.
Oh, Noah, wait till you hear my score.
I'm sorry. I know it's 6.5.
You gotta let him.
Evil.
It's not evil. I'm not going to take it down like anything like 2 points or 3 points or whatever. It's just going to be a 0.5 down.
So we're meeting at a 6.
Yeah, 6. I was considering a 5.5, but, you know, I believe I rated the first Mortal Kombat a 6, and I would not call this worse than the first Mortal Kombat.
Definitely not.
But the nostalgia carries the first Mortal Kombat, so I would watch the first Mortal Kombat more times than I would watch this one. Therefore,
Interesting.
it meets at the 6.
Yeah.
I think they both are 6s in my book. This is a more quality version of it, and it does have flaws, but it is better made than the original Mortal Kombat. But the flaws in this are just that I don't really care that much about it. All of this stuff might be happening that's cool, and I might, you know, laugh at Kano's jokes, or I might enjoy a fatality, and I'll think it's cool. But ultimately, I'm thinking, well, what's the point here? What are we doing here? I don't really like the main character that much. I don't hate him, but he's just kind of boring to me. They've done my main man Liu Kang dirty. He's just, I don't know, there. And I just would have liked to have seen, as AJ said, a little bit more motivation from the main character, and a little bit more of an ambitious story. So there you go.
All right.
Hey, wait a minute. So, David, you bumped it up. You didn't make it quite a 7. I mean, you do have dragons in this, and dragon tattoos, and
There is something.
Okay.
There's
There was
missing,
also
though.
snow in this.
There's some
no
snow. There's
Yetis,
some cold.
guys. There's no
I didn't see a
Yetis.
Yeti though.
Goro's close to it.
Throw some hair on him.
This is why it doesn't get that extra point for him.
Yeah.
Not
Obviously,
a
that's
Yeti, not
that's
a football.
reference to David giving Mummy 2 and the Dragon Emperor a 7. Mortal Kombat, he scored a 1 point lower than that movie.
That's a better movie.
Yep.
We make jokes about it every time, but I think this is the one of the few times that this is backfiring on you. Like, I think even you in your mind know that this movie is better than Mummy 2 with the Dragon Emperor.
Nuh-uh.
I think so.
Nah, you gotta
think so.
rewatch it.
You gotta
You don't
rewatch.
remember.
Next.
Well, next up is Reese with a 6.5.
That's where I'm at. Okay, so the way I see this movie, it is the foundation, not the house. And it is no fun to live in a foundation.
I agree.
I think this movie is very dependent on this inevitable second movie that is the tournament. in this series, and I think if that movie delivers, it will retroactively make this one look a little bit better. That said, I still had a lot of fun with this movie. I think it does a lot of things right. I think it really was wise to go with this Scorpion Sub-Zero rivalry as the bookends to the film. I think that's the strongest emotional crux this movie has. Obviously, the biggest, detriment to this movie is Cole Young, who, and I am actually all for a movie having a new character into the fold. Just make him interesting. Like, make him cool. Like, Cole Young, it's not the worst offender I've ever seen. There are more bland characters, like the character from Percy Jackson comes to mind, where I'm just like, oh, this guy's totally useless. I hate him. I don't hate Cole Young. I just think he's totally white bread compared to all the other flavors in this movie that you could have gone with as your protagonist. But that said, there's a lot of, the movie has a lot of good energy that we've said already. There's a lot of fun fights. I think it kind of falls apart in the end, which is weird because some of the best moments are in the end as well. It just, from an editing standpoint, really kind of falters for some reason, and I do think that was maybe due to time constraints, finishing the movie and getting it out in time. Who knows? But it just kind of fumbles that third act because of it. Just the pacing is just weird there, and it just seems like it's fast forwarded versus this long wind up they had before.
The training arc was about 5 minutes.
So the pacing is all over the place. The editing's not great, but I do think it there's never a moment in this movie where I'm just, oh, that was awful. Like, it's at least competent, and then there's moments where I truly felt something and I was like, oh, that's cool, they nailed that. And it's, as I said, it is a wind-up punch without the punch.
Yeah,
like, that's this movie.
It's a slight positive.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's a movie I'm not going to say, like, oh, they should just reboot it again. Like, I think they've done enough good here to move forward with. Like, you can recover from here, and I'm not going to dismiss this movie. But it's also definitely not a perfect product, and yeah, it's flawed in many ways. But I still had a good time, so I had a 6.5 seems appropriate, just on the verge of being like a positive. Like, I'm mildly positive on this one. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Well, I think to end it off, we should go with the most positive person in the group.
Yay!
Irina.
What'd you give this? Wait. Let me guess.
No, don't. Just
Let me guess.
10 out of 10.
No. Let me guess.
10 millions.
7.5.
No, it's a 7.
Oh, well.
So I had a lot of fun with this, and I know that when I was talking about it, I sounded pretty negative, and it's because I can be realistic about its failings, which there are some, but they're not terribly egregious failings either. So I recalled a lot of movies that I've put around the same area as 6 and 6.5, and I would much rather watch this than those. And it's mostly because the subject matter is more forgiving. I think
it's
if you are doing a Mortal Kombat film, as long as you at least pay attention to the characters in a way that shows you have some kind of loving care to them, I will probably enjoy it. So I did appreciate what they did with a lot of the characters they included, of which there are many. And they did have the foresight to see that Johnny Cage is a favorite that will pull people to watch more, as well as the fact that Reptile isn't as interesting, and so he's one of the first to be knocked out.
Yeah,
and they didn't want to make it any more complicated.
They show an awareness of like
they
what
show
people,
an awareness.
Like, yeah.
So I think I appreciated that. I do believe there were time constraints, because that makes a lot more sense with this product that I'm seeing before me, where there are a lot of really good moments where I feel like they know their character, and then others where it felt like the first iteration of storyboarding and they just had to go with it, you know? So I'm disappointed because I feel like there was a better movie here if they had more time. So I'm feeling pretty positive, and I'm falling in line with you, Reese, where you're saying this is the foundation, not the house. I think it was a very good call not to rush into the Mortal Kombat like actual face-off, especially if you're wanting to do a franchise. There are so many movies out there that they just want to get to the big showcase, you know, and they rush to it and they don't do it justice. So I'm hopeful that this will build into something more. This may be the lesser movie of the franchise, but I still had fun with it, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
I want
AJ,
to say, so I know at the top of the episode, we had some comments about the movie kind of feeling like a tonal mishmash, and I actually disagree with that. I think the tone it's spot on for me. Now, granted, I don't have, I guess, the expectations of, or being tied to the story of the games or anything. But, yeah, I thought tone was one of the stronger points.
Yeah, and that's something that I thought was a mishmash to begin with, but I kind of talked myself out of that a little bit. I think we had a conversation midway through this episode where I was like, oh, you know, the movie pretty much lays its cards out on the table right from the beginning with that, even though it was more serious, with just the kind of ridiculousness of that scene in the beginning. So I could be bought into that argument.
So I'm still not entirely convinced on the tone. I think it is a set tone for it, and it is kind of a combination of the things, but I just think that perhaps it would have worked better if they had like fully gone in the campy route or fully gone in the serious route with maybe hints of camp.
Yeah. I just didn't. I think the problem was there's like sometimes it has self-awareness and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't seem to, and that's more what I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, AJ,
it's
you want
just a suspension of disbelief in some cases would be mitigated by picking a direction.
Yeah. AJ, you want to crunch those numbers for us on this one?
So, Mortal Kombat 2021 has a group average of 6.2. That ties it with The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Dragonheart, 2010, the year we make contact. And then we have below that, at a 6.0, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides and Cowboys and Aliens. And above it, at a 6.4, is 28 Weeks Later.
I actually think that's almost perfect.
28 weeks later. Should not.
That movie's amazing, and it should
forgot all
be higher.
these 6.3s. Sorry.
Oh.
Dune, the David Lynch version,
Yeah.
6.3. Clash of the Titans, 1981. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And The Never-Ending Story. Those had 6.3s.
Interesting.
That's fair. I think that's fair for this one.
I think the 6 ranges, I'm okay with it. I think for me 7s and up would have been a little too high, but also 5s are a little too low. I think 6s are fair.
Yeah. All right. So with the 6.2 from us, let's move on to what critics thought. Let's see how closely aligned we are with them.
Before that, just throwing out there, 4.9 was what the 1995 group average was. So.
Yeah, and I think 3 and weirdly like 3.6 or something for Annihilation, which I think is weirdly too high, even though 3.6 is
I think
very low.
3.6 is pretty fair.
Because Mr.
Annihilation
Debbie Downey wasn't in that episode. That's
is
why.
bad.
Yeah.
But
I would have loved to hear your review on that one, AJ. I think it might have been like a oneer for you, if I had to guess. But I digress. Let's move on. On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 54% from critics and an 86% from audiences.
interesting.
On Metacritic, it has a 44 with an audience score of 6.2, which is exactly tied with us.
Kind of opposing here.
I actually think the theater watch of this might be better than the home theater watch of this.
And on IMDb, it has a 6.1. So very much in the same range here. There's a couple of instances in Metacritic where the critics went a little lower. On Rotten Tomatoes, audiences went a little higher. but I would say decidedly mixed reviews for Mortal Kombat. One sidebar here is it is one of the better reviewed movies based off a video game, so it's on the upper side of that. They're starting to finally crack the code on video games. I feel like this one's kind of on the fence there, but we've had a number of fresh video game adaptations since. You got Sonic and Sonic 2 both coming in fresh. That Angry Birds 2 movie was fresh.
Really?
Detective Pikachu, fresh.
Tomb Raider, Alicia Vikander.
Tomb Raider was very close. That's in the same range as Mortal Kombat, even though I think that movie's better than this one. That was also in the 50s, and Mortal Kombat's also in the 50s. So just under fresh for these two.
Reese, you want to hear me say something that's going to make you mad? I would watch the Warcraft movie before this one.
And that's
Well,
okay.
You just love Warcraft, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know you like Warcraft.
I do.
I
love
mean,
Warcraft.
I would watch Prince of Persia movie before this, and I know that movie is not very well received, but
I would
I have a
too.
soft spot for that movie.
I actually really like the Prince of Persia
and
movie.
I have a soft spot for the Assassin's Creed movie. I think
That one's good. That one's I don't think that one's very flawed of a.
It's a
video game
strange movie.
It's
Like,
weird,
like-
but I don't think it's very flawed.
Well, they got like
compared to
an
others.
art house director to do a video game movie, and it's not a successful adaptation, but it's a fascinating one.
I'd rather watch Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
We all know.
It's really rewatchable.
Also, not based off of a
Got
video
that
game,
Dragon
but
Rash.
Dragon Rash. Yeah. All right, box office. It's going to be released wide on April 23rd in 2021. This is kind of like in the middle of COVID still, although vaccinations are out there and people are kind of slowly making their way back into the theaters at this time. So also playing at the time, or this movie released the same weekend, Demon Slayer the movie, Mugen Train, and
Mugen.
Weeb. And also playing at the time was Godzilla vs. Kong, Nobody, and Raya and the Last Dragon. So what do we think Mortal Kombat 2021 did worldwide off a budget of $55 million?
I'll volunteer.
All right, AJ.
So 55, I'm going to go with our kind of rule of thumb where getting a sequel is about triple the budget. So I'm going to shoot 175. Let's do that.
175. All right, Noah.
I'm gonna aim low, with the thought behind this being that the director had something of a plan for the sequel and managed to convince others around it, and say 75.
75. David.
AJ's close. I was. Do I want to go above or below? I'm gonna go ahead and say 150.
150. So above AJ.
No,
Arena.
below AJ.
No, he said 125.
175.
You said 175.
Oh, sorry, 175.
175.
Okay. Arena.
Let's go 97.
97. Noah, you said 75?
Yep.
All right. Noah, you are closer. It was close, though, Irina. You were very close. The movie did 84 million
dang.
worldwide. Okay. Doesn't sound so good, right? Against that $55 million budget, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But caveat. Big coronavirus caveat here.
Exactly.
This is when HBO Max was trying to pump up its numbers, so they were releasing their movies day and date with the theatrical release with HBO Max. So you could literally see this on day one on HBO Max, the same day you would see it in theaters.
That was huge.
Mortal Kombat has thus far, to this date, to today, been the highest watched movie on HBO Max.
Really?
Release-wise.
Not Dune.
Not Dune. Beat out Godzilla vs. Kong. Beat out Dune. Beat out The Matrix Resurrections. Beat out Suicide Squad.
Wonder Woman.
Beat out Wonder Woman. Well, Wonder Woman was before it, but it kind of did the same thing. But yeah, this is the number one. And don't quote me, but I think the number was 4.1 million viewers opening weekend. So while it's box office, it did open number one. It beat Demon Slayer barely. They both released on the same weekend. Made something like 24 million and didn't have much legs. But it was also just one of the most culturally relevant things at the time. So many people watched the trailer. So many people were talking about it. So I think just that surge of people watching online and on HBO Max really pushed this one over the line. Even though if you look at its raw box office numbers, this would not justify a sequel.
I'm just saying that if you take those 4.1 million people and multiply it by $10 a ticket, that's about $41 million added. That makes me closer. So I think that I win.
Nice try.
Dang it.
No, I mean, you have to calculate the Bitcoin.
I lose by TKO.
So yeah, this is our first movie where normally you would not get a sequel based off of this. And I think the reason we're talking about this is, for one, it's kind of it's a more popular thing to talk about, but also the sequel is still, in my opinion, even though it's greenlit, kind of uncertain.
Hey, how many movies did we see greenlit that did not get to
No, it
screen?
happens all the time. The Tomb Raider sequel was greenlit, that Alicia Vikander one, and I think that one's just going to die on the vine.
What?
I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, I want it to happen, but there's really no movement being made on it whatsoever. I think there's more hope for this sequel, so I am actually leaning on the edge of this actually happening. But let's get into a little bit of that franchise talk here. So I'm taking this from Wikipedia, but it's also I've verified it from other sources as well. So I'm just going to read. So regarding the continuation of the film series, the film's producer Todd Garner revealed to Collider that there is a possibility of a Johnny Cage-centric standalone film.
Oh.
I don't think that's happening.
But that'd be cool.
Taslim has revealed that he signed, and that Taslim, he's the guy who played Sub-Zero, has revealed that he signed on for 4 sequels if the reboot is a success. Director Simon McQuoid, stated that he is open to returning to direct a sequel if the story for it is good, and co-writer Greg Russo told Collider that he sees the reboot as a trilogy, with the first film set before the tournament, the second film set during the tournament, and the third film set post-tournament.
Not one of the Russo brothers, by the way.
Not one of the Russo brothers. No, not at all. That was basically the setup, just to say that on January 26th in 2022, Warner Brothers has officially greenlit a sequel with Jeremy Slater set to pen the screenplay. So it's in pre-production. It sounds like currently scripts being made. So we're kind of waiting on news here at this point as to what this sequel is going to shape up to be. What are y'all's hopes for this sequel if it does happen? I just want to ask.
I'm excited for tournament. I am ready to see some Johnny Cage kick some freaking butt.
You see, while I'll like to see Johnny Cage as well, I still want Liu Kang in the main character position. I just like Liu Kang in that role.
Better question. Do you think it was wise to not have a tournament in this first movie and basically make this one setting up all the chess pieces for a tournament?
I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Supposing that there is a second one, which is a tournament, yes.
Yeah.
What they will need to do, in my opinion, is actually, you said this was a foundation. I think they need to lay a foundation of the other realms. So they're hopping between outer worlds or other world, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then the Eden realm. I can't remember. Sorry, I'm butchering all this. Then you get this overall kind of story arc of tying all these things together and that kind of stuff.
How interesting would it be in that case if you have this story be like, oh, these guys are, at first you're thinking, oh, these are the good guys, so you have this team, the Earth Realm, and then the next one is that outer world or outer realm, whatever, and you show those characters, and now people on the audience side are trying to pick a side of like, well, which one do we want to win?
Well, then you have the storyline of Katana being whatever, this imprisoned princess of, this... taking over kingdom, and then I think Liu Kang and her kind of get together and all that stuff. So
I think that could be really cool.
I also think this sequel needs to, since this is if it's the tournament movie, it needs to go hard on the techno. Like, give us a cool intro, and then once the logo comes out for the beginning, like, Oh my gosh. If they unveiled like a full-on techno remake of that song, just as the logo plays out, that would just...
And
people would
yeah.
cheer. It would
Something
be so
along
cool.
the lines of Deadpool 2 with...
with the what's
uh,
her name? Celine Dion?
No, that's not techno. What is wrong with you?
No,
It's not as dubstep. Skrillex, that Skrillex fight where that kind of stylized
in
action
in
sequence.
Deadpool 2?
Yeah,
Oh, was that Bangarang? Which one
yeah,
was
it's
that?
Bangarang.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So something along that style, not like kind of on the comedy line, but still have that kind of beat with or even along the Blade line. Back to true, the techno clubs and stuff.
Yeah. I think Mortal Kombat needs that kind of, energy for it. And that might actually be one of the bigger reasons why this one kind of falls a little bit for me, is because even though it has cool stuff happening, it doesn't have that energy or that like you don't
Driving
feel
heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get pumped for it. You're not feeling that artificial rave music. I guess flowing through your veins the same way. So that could be part of why it feels a little drier than the old one.
They just need to lean into the fun, I think, for this next one, and hopefully they they deliver. I'm excited for the future. I hope it actually comes out. I hope development
so, too.
on this is going well.
Cautiously optimistic.
See, okay, that's my gauge for this. Like, while we aren't super positive overall with the reviews, I feel like all of us are at least like, yeah, let's see what happens next. Right?
I'm definitely on board.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
definitely agree.
Okay.
And maybe
Like-
ditch Cole. I wouldn't cry about that.
Or
have it
do
be a plot device in which he dies.
The big move would be to do what Annihilation did to Johnny Cage and just kill him right at the beginning.
Hey, honestly,
I mean, it'd be terrible, but I think people would be like, "Oh, they went there. Great."
yeah, I would, yeah, like
Brutality.
AJ said, I wouldn't cry about it.
I know you wouldn't cry about it.
I mean, I don't even hate the guy. I just think that he's just kind of boring.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on Mortal Kombat?
Moral Wombat.
Moral, yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
All right. Next week, we're moving on to a different franchise, Highlander.
Yeah, Highlander.
And this is I like this miniseries. There's weird connections between all of these in terms of like actors and in terms of destiny and
People dying.
one-on-one fights, people dying.
McLeod!
Yeah, so and mixes between old times and modern, and traveling between I don't know, different times and
cultures,
realms and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, so excited to talk about Highlander. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and obviously inevitably will be getting into a couple of those sequels as well. So great.
Stay tuned.
All right. With that said, goodbye, you guys.
Bye.
Later.
What about me, Gandalf? What does my fortune cookie say?